Hello, and welcome to InsideBoxing ThrowDown. This week on tap, we're going to talk a little bit about the Canelo Angulo fight. We're going to give you your thoughts on that fight, kind of a recap. Then we're going to talk about tomorrow's fight between Danny Garcia and Mauricio Herrera. Okay. Then we're going to come back and follow that with segments. We're going to talk a little bit about Floyd Mayweather. And come on, man! But we're going to talk about him and his problems outside the ring that he just recently had in the past couple of days. And then we'll come back and do a session just on the local scene here in Colorado and talk about some things that are brewing in our up and coming new professional fighters. All right, Eric, let's get right into this Canelo Angulo fight. We talked about that last week.
We did. And I mean, it was a great fight for the fans, but you've been in this business longer than I have. You've seen fighters in and out of the gym. Anyone with a boxing eye can see that something was wrong with Angulo. Physically, there was something wrong with him. His ring walk lasted around 20 minutes. He just seemed really slow. And he's never been blazing hand speed, but you know, he's been at that upper echelons of the boxing game to where his hand speed was enough to get him through fights. He just looks slow. He looks sluggish. He's always been a big puncher. He looked like he had no pop behind his punches. He just seemed like a defeated fighter. Like something was wrong. Maybe he left it all in the gym. Maybe, you know, fighters who, even though he's still young in his career, 22 fights, he's always in wars.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just, you know, that fight where he's lost some of it in, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, boxing is just as much mental as it is physical. I mean, you can be in the best physical shape you are and go in ready to a fight, but if something's wrong mentally, it's going to affect your outcome. Mm-hmm. It's going to affect your performance in the ring. And I, from the very beginning, thought it would be an easy fight for Canelo. I just thought it was kind of tailor-made, mm-hmm. and that's pretty much the way it came out. But I, like you, expected a lot more from Angulo. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that killer instinct. Usually he comes out with the spikes on his neck, and he comes out like that wild rabbit dog. And
you can tell from the first punch.
Yeah,
something was wrong with him.
And he just didn't come out there. But I'm going to say that I'm going back to the mental part, and what you have to understand is when we talk about the Mexicans, and I'm talking about the Mexican nationals, okay, that both Canelo and Angulo are, there's a pride factor, okay, and Angulo coming up started his career very exciting, you know, the public behind him. He very much wanted to be in that position that Canelo's in now.
Exactly.
He very much wanted to be coming in and be the people's, the Mexican national people's icon. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And chances are it's not going to happen now. And I think that took a little bit of his steam and his desire away because he wasn't in that position. Of course, he was fighting against the Mexican icon.
And basically he was the opponent for the second fight in a row.
Yes.
A lot of people might not know who Aurelio is.
Yep.
We do. We know he was the A-side on that card. I had a lot of people over for the fight, and the first thing they said was, wow, he put 20 pounds on overnight. And I told them, well, you know what? He looks a little drained. Don't be surprised if you see, you know, some things in the ring that you're not used to seeing from top-level fighters. When someone puts on 20 pounds overnight, it usually means they struggle to make the weight.
Exactly. They're dehydrated. They're dried out, and they're dehydrated to the point where it's actually physically and healthy dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so So, I agree with you. So your body has to rehydrate. It's starving. I mean, it's starving. So anything you put in your body, whether it's food, water, protein drinks, or whatever it is, it's
gonna hold it.
It's going to hold it and absorb it like a sponge. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't think so. I don't think it's necessarily good.
Some fighters have done it in the past. Arturo Gatti was a real big name fighter who always put on a lot of weight, overnight, and still came out and was able to perform.
A few of them. Roberto Duran.
Exactly.
He
Yes.
did the same thing. But these are what word am I looking for? These are the boxers that have the natural ability. They have the talent that can carry them through a fight. Even if they're not in 100% shape, they have the skills and the talent and the know-how to carry them through a 12-round fight. Just like your heavyweights. If you get a good experienced heavyweight, he can box 12 rounds because of his knowledge and the way he does it. But he won't be able to throw 300 punches around in 12 rounds. But so anyway, I think the fight was a good fight. It was almost the perfect fight for Canelo because it brings him back up and it kind of erases that little hiccup that he ran into with Floyd Mayweather. And because people, they expected a lot more from him against Mayweather. Even if he didn't win the fight, they expected
a better effort.
A better effort instead of just going through the motions for the 12 rounds. And basically that's what he did.
So before we wrap up Canelo, we've been talking about Alexander Lara too, and he actually challenged Canelo at the press conference after the fight. If this fight is made, what do you see happening in that fight between Canelo and Lara?
Well, there again, I don't think Alexander Lara can beat Canelo. I just think that it would be a good fight because Alexander Lara presents a little different angle than Angulo would. It wouldn't be, people would not expect, nor should they expect the grudge, the in the middle of the ring, rock'em sock'em, because Alexander Lara was going to bring a lot of talent. He's going to bring a lot of movement.
Exactly.
He's going to bring a lot of skills and defensive measures into play, and it will be up to Canelo to be able to break through that defense. Okay, but I think eventually he will, and in the later rounds he'll break through the defense, similar to what he did with Austin with Trout.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see that the same way, but I do envision that if they make that fight, a great fight, good fight.
Yeah, it has great fight written all over it. Ederson Arlander, he's your typical. Where is he from?
Is he Cuban or Puerto
Cuban?
Rican?
Yeah, he's a typical Cuban fighter. Great amateur background, technical skills, great footwork. He has great hand speed, decent pop. But he has shown in the Angulo bout that his chin is a little cracky.
Exactly.
And Canelo can hit. So I think it will be a battle between Ederson Arlander, keep Canelo at bay with his skills, or can Canelo break that defense you talk about and test that chin, and how much could Ederson Arlander stand up to Canelo's punching power?
And I think that's the key. You just mentioned the two keys: the key on Canelo's side and the key on Alexander Lara's side, in order to win the contest. So I hope they start making these fights. I'd like to see them. You're right. Alexander Lara does not have the chin that Angulo has. I mean, Angulo took a beating and relatively stood up to the beating. I mean, the fight was stopped prematurely. Okay, I'm going to admit that it was, in my opinion, it was stopped prematurely. Although Angulo really didn't have a chance to win the fight, you got to wonder, okay, is there a safety measure there? Do you stop the fight because you really don't think he has a chance? But then you always got to give Angulo a puncher's shot. I mean, if take Marcus and Pacquiao, okay, where he just had that puncher's shot and caught Pacquiao, knocked him down. There's no way of telling if that couldn't happen.
Exactly.
Where Canelo walked into one of them punches and got flattened out. So you have to give him the benefit of the doubt because obviously he wasn't hurt. He was taking punches, he was taking a beating, but he wasn't taking them to where he was hurt. where he was actually dazed, wobbled, or anything like that. So yes, I do think it was prematurely. These are Mexican fighters with big hearts and Mexican pride. Let them go out on their shield, unless you see something physically that tells you that there's a danger of the fighter getting hurt, which wasn't the case in this fight. So yes, the referee made a big mistake. You let a fighter, especially a fighter like Angulo, go out on his shield. You know, win, lose, or draw, give him that opportunity.
And just to counteract that is, if the ref wouldn't have stopped it in that round, I think Virgil Hunter was on the verge of stopping it at the end of that round. I think he whispered into Angulo's ear, "Show me something, or son, I have to stop this."
Yeah.
And I think he was on the verge of getting stopped anyways. Whether it was Canelo, the ref, or Angulo's corner, it was on the verge of getting stopped.
Yeah, and I agree. He wasn't going to win the fight, but he still had that one puncher's shot of making it, because he wasn't quitting. And when he doesn't, and when your fighter doesn't quit, and I'm kind of glad Virgil Hunter wasn't the one who had to throw in the towel, because you would have seen a separation there.
Yeah.
Too much pride in the Mexican to go in there and forgive a coach to throw it in when you're not physically hurt. So you would have seen a big separation there in between the fighter and the coach, and that would have eliminated that relationship real quick. So, but anyway, let's move on. We'll wait to see what Canelo brings to the table on his next fight. And also Angulo, what's he going to do? Because he really needs to get back into the thick of things. So they have to really pick and choose his next opponent very carefully. So,
so live Saturday from Puerto Rico on Showtime Sports, you have Danny Garcia, who is becoming one of boxing's biggest and brightest stars, taking on Mauricio Herrera for the WBA Junior Welterweight Championship of the World. I believe it's a WBA. WBC. Okay. Continental bout, because Floyd holds the official WBC bout. What are your takes on not only this bout, but Danny Garcia?
You know what? I'm not real thrilled about the bout itself. I think Mauricio Herrera is not a legitimate top contender to vie for a championship bout. I'm just saying that. I think he's a worthy opponent, but not at this level. Okay, so I really particularly don't like the fight. I think Danny Garcia can just kind of cruise and just kind of do it. But in saying that, I think Danny Garcia deserves this fight.
I was just going to ask that. Don't you think, when a certain fighter, goes through a couple of fighters who were, at the same level as them, they had the build up to it, the big bright lights, the excitement, the pay-per-view stuff. Don't you just think certain fighters deserve a gimme fight?
I do, because think about it. In Danny's last fights, he wasn't supposed to win.
Lucas Matisse, Zab Judah,
he wasn't supposed to win. But and I've said it before, I like Danny Garcia, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Danny Garcia doesn't give you a lot of fling in the ring. He doesn't give you a lot of a sting in the ring. He doesn't do that. But my man is sneaky good. Okay, and I've said that before. He's sneaky good because he's close enough where he touches you, and he's close enough where he makes you pay. He doesn't take himself out of distance, and that's a beautiful thing for boxers. And I like Danny, and I think that's going to serve him well, and he's going to stay on top of that mountain for a while.
Well, hopefully, he's talking about moving up to 147.
Yep.
Obviously, he's in the crosshairs of Floyd Mayweather, so he may be at the top for a while. He may not be on top for a while if he decides to take that fight. But
you better hurry up.
You look at the landscape. Guys like Sean Porter, Amir Khan, Devin Alexander, Adrian Broner. You have Maidana's fighting Mayweather next. I still give Garcia the better chance of all those fighters to. If there's anyone to dethrone Floyd Mayweather in or around 140, 147, even 154, I would give Danny Garcia the better chance of those named fighters.
And I do as well. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Danny Garcia, the type of guy that's going to beat Floyd, if he ever does get beaten, is going to be a fighter that stays in the pocket and can be elusive enough not to take the brunt of Floyd's hits, but stay close enough to deliver his punch. That's what it's going to take to beat Floyd. There's no one out there right now that can do that. Okay, they either jump out of the way too far, take themselves out of distance. Danny Garcia is that sneaky good fighter that will stay in the pocket. And if he rolls with Floyd's punches, turns them shoulders, and is still close enough to deliver a punch, that's what it's going to take to even remotely come close to defeating.
And that's what's exciting about Danny Garcia is Danny Garcia throws punches that you only see in street fights. That left hook from left field that you don't typically see in the boxing ring. Danny Garcia throws that punch.
Yeah.
You know, Eric Morales, ask Amir Khan. Like you said, Danny Garcia stayed in the pocket, tucked his chin, had his hands up, and just threw this left hook that no one throws, and Khan folded. Plain and simple.
Yes.
But I like I said, I like Danny Garcia. He's exciting. He's young. He's talented, and he lets his dad do all the talking.
And and
it's exciting.
He does his work in the ring.
Exactly.
But let's talk about the undercard, because we have an exciting undercard. Even though I'm not real excited about the main event, I think you'll see a pretty decent fight. I don't think Danny Garcia is going to go out for the kill. I think he's going to get his work in and just basically win every round in the book. But on the undercard, we also have some interesting fights. I mean,
we do. We have who everyone is hoping to be America's next great heavyweight. I mean, it's been a while. Deontay Wilder, 30-0.
Yep. He's
facing off with his good friend Malik Scott. I think Malik Scott is somewhere like 33-1.
Yep.
Deontay Wilder, and this is for the WBC #1 ranked fighter.
Yes. Yes.
So, which I think is Cristobal Aurelio and Bernavine Stavine are fighting for the WBC bout that Vitali has vacated while he's doing his political stuff. I mean, people are banking on Deontay Wilder bringing back the heavyweight bouts to America.
Well, think about it. Think about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot to pick from in that heavyweight crew, which is why the door opened up to people coming in from other countries outside of the USA to start making a stand in the heavyweight division. It's been a long time, but like you say, Deontay Wilder, he seems to be a guy that has all the tools. He's the complete package. Okay, so he probably will do it. You talked about Chris Arreola and some of the others that are still in the mix, but they've already proven that they can get up to the top, but they can't pass that. They can't cross that line. Okay, although they get there, they try. They're like the Houston Oilers when Bum Phillips was the coach. They knock on the door
or
every
Buffalo
year.
Bills 4 years in a row, but couldn't win.
But they couldn't get it, so that's what we have. And I think we have something else with Deontay Wilder. And the only thing that I really don't like about this contest between him and Scott is that Malik Scott and Deontay are friends, and I'm talking about close friends. They're not just distant friends that meet each other every now and there or went through some of the tournaments together or something. They're actually good friends, and you can say I'm going to go in the ring and everything changes, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about you going in the ring and fighting one of your best friends, and you can say, okay, well, it's going to change. We got to climb to the top and stuff, but it doesn't.
You're going to do enough to win, but not enough to hurt him.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean? You might stop him, but you might not do it in the vicious way that you might have done, a different opponent that would have stepped in the ring with you.
Yeah, which can make a boring fight, and which can make both of the fighters look ugly.
Well, Malik Scott's already a boring fighter.
Yeah.
I think he has 8 knockouts in his 30-some wins. Yeah. He's just a technical, sound boxer. But Deontay Wilder, he needs to impress each and every time he steps into the ring.
I think so.
You know what I mean? Granted, he has the record now. He's starting to build up these lesser type bouts. The Continental bouts, the America bouts, stuff like that. He has a big time promoter and Golden Boy behind him. So, getting about with Vladimir Klitschko shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
But the problem with Klitschko and some of the guys he fights are people aren't impressed with them.
Yeah.
So Deontay Wilder needs to impress the general public so that this can be a big-time heavyweight bout, pay-per-view type bout. Whether it's here or whether, Klitschko decides he's staying at home and fighting in Germany.
And I think he mentioned that he wants to go out and be like Muhammad Ali, to go out and win in other people's backyards, in other countries, in other lands and stuff like that, which is good, but it's not like it was in the olden days. You don't go and win a fight in someone else's territory, even if you win the fight. So he needs to take that out of the picture.
Okay, so let's move on to the third bout of the evening. You have it's actually a rematch, and a lot of people might not know this, but it's Juan Manuel Lopez versus Daniel Ponce de Leon. Man, Lopez was one of those for sure.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Shoot to the top of the charts, stay there for a while, rock star type of fighters, and he was derailed. And what people don't realize is, I can't think of the year they fought, but Lopez actually stopped Ponce de Leon in the first round in their first encounter.
Yep.
However, times have changed. Anyone who's seen Lopez fight recently, it goes back to how we were talking about Angulo earlier in the show. Something's just, it's not there anymore. Physically, mentally, he's not all there anymore.
Well, that's a fighter's career. I mean, you can be on top of your game, and then one day you wake up and you're old. Not age-wise, but boxing-wise.
Yeah.
It just happens, and you never know when that's going to happen. But the only thing I do is I see this in both fighters. I don't think Ponce de Leon is anywhere near what he used to be as well. So you should actually get a good fight. You got two, for the sake of words, has-beens that were on top of their game at one time, fighting each other, which makes an interesting fight. So whether no matter who wins this fight, whether it's Juanma or whether it's Ponce, it ends there. Okay, because they're not going to go and fight a top 10 contender
unless they're a stepping stone
and continue. Well, yeah, because you do have top 10 contenders that are stepping stones. But if you go out there and buy for anyone like in the top 3, top 5,
it ain't happening there.
It's not going to happen. Okay, but this fight, we should be able to see a pretty decent fight.
Here's what I see the difference though of how the fight will play out is, like you said, both guys are has-beens. We've seen the best of them. Their better days are behind them. But there's a difference between competing and there's a difference between just getting beat. Ponce de Leon still competes.
Yep.
He's still in every fight he steps in the ring with. Lopez is just straight getting beat down.
Yeah, he is.
Hurt.
He's had some ugly fights.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a difference between losing and getting hurt. And although Lopez stopped Ponce de Leon in their first fight, I think Ponce de Leon stops Lopez this time around.
Really?
Yes.
This is in Puerto Rico, isn't it?
Yes.
Bayamon. So I don't see that. I just don't see. No matter how bad, unless Juan Ma's skills have deteriorated so bad, I can't see him in front of his home crowd, in front of his friends, families, and everyone else there, everyone that loved him, go down that way to another fighter that's past his prime. So I look for a good fight.
It's shaping up to be a good fight, shaping up to be a good card.
Tell them the network, Showtime, or the time.
Live on Showtime. Let me see the time for you. You know what? It don't list the time. Go to showsports.com, fightnews.com. They usually list the times for you. But it should be a decent, interesting card. And for the sake of boxing fans, you get to see one of the brightest up-and-coming fighters in Danny Garcia. And possibly America's next heavyweight champion, Deontay Wilder.
Yeah. Well, good. We'll be back with the next segment where we talk about Money Man Floyd. And
also we're going to talk about Mike Alvarado versus Juan Manuel Marquez.
That's a done deal. That fight's coming up. So stay tuned. Come back and watch the next segment, and we'll talk about them two exciting topics, okay? We'll be right back.